Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be taking a first look at Gold Mythic Kapoor, who is going to be the unique character coming to the Season 2 Mythic War depot, kind of how Erica was the unique character for Season 1. Now these characters will probably come into the game further along down the line, but the first place that Erica was available was in Season 1 depot, and the first place that Kapoor's going to be available is in the Season 2 depot. Visually, he is kind of like the OG Kapoor from the S-Class era, who was also a War Depot character. He's an alert character, he's holding double pistols this time round. He's looking less like Rick Sheriff-like and more like Bandito Sheriff-like. He has got the Sheriff badge on still. As we see on the right-hand side, he is fully geared in cowboy gear. But on the left-hand side, what is going on? What is actually going on? I don't even know. I mean, it's the same Kapoor that we see on the right-hand side, but there's a horse involved. And like, I just want to know that conversation, you know? What do you want? What do you want? Oh, I want Kapoor as a cowboy. Okay. And I want him on a horse. This is like, just ridiculous. As a tier 5 gold mythic at level 600, he has got 14,220 attack, 12,965 defense and 14,638 HP. He is an alert character. He is a tank. He is a mythic character, of course, and his allegiance is a member of the Commonwealth. And I think he joins Frost into this allegiance. These might be the only two of that allegiance so far. So go across and take a look at Kapoor's Adrenaline Rush, and it is called High Noon. It has got a recharge rate of 75 AP, so reasonably slow. It is actually the same sort of speed as who is it Frost? I think it's actually the other Commonwealth character. Frost has a 75 AP rush. Deal main damage equal to 33% of this character's max HP to up to 3 enemies. Heal this character and one other teammate by 25% of their max HP for 2 turns. So obviously 2 parts of this. The first part is damage based off of his max HP, which means you could make him very tanky on the defense team and still do quite a reasonable amount of damage. 33% of his max HP at the moment. You're looking at most likely 50 to 60k max if you went really all out, and if you had a HP leader you could probably get a little bit higher, but that means you could potentially easily deal between 15 and 20k main damage to 3 characters. And a lot of damage dealers on attack teams right now, the max HP they could possibly get without using any mods, and most people don't mod their damage dealers with HP, is probably like 21 to 23k if they got really high level in Lieutenant system and you've used your bronze medals and stuff to get them up to level 640. You're looking at probably around 20 to 23k. So you almost one-shot some of those characters, and it wouldn't take much more, just maybe a couple of basic attacks early on to actually get that done. Now, it is a slow rush, so you're most likely going to get some basic attacks in first. Heal this character and one other teammate with 25% of their max HP for 2 turns. Specifically for Kapoor, that's great because it's definitely going to heal him, and he's going to have the high HP stat because you're going to boost his HP to do more damage. You still will need a reasonable amount of defense so he doesn't absolutely get nuked, but it means that if he has got that 60,000 HP to do 20,000 main damage, he's also going to heal 15,000 HP per turn with that 25% heal, which is actually really good. Now the other heal to the other teammate will go to the person on the lowest HP, so that's ideal, but one of the heals will always go to Kapoor. Okay, so we are on the rush turn for Kapoor, and you can see his HP is only 24,000 for this test, but that means he should do around about 8,000 in actual main damage. So we're going to select some characters. This character doesn't have huge amounts of HP, so we should be able to potentially one-shot some of these characters. It is going to be quite a lot to this one down the bottom, but like I said, you are going to probably have to finish off with your basic attack here and there. You can see characters that are supremely tanky will need a lot more damage done against them. The more HP Kapoor does, the more damage he does. It's as simple as that. You can also see he healed himself by 25% HP, and he also healed Glenn, who was the person who was focused off of turn 1. As you can see, Glenn has now gone up to 10,000 HP, and he still does have another heal for 25% on his next turn. It will work exactly the same way if Kapoor is used on a defense team, where I see him probably being the most viable, but potentially he could be used on Conquest. So overall, I don't think this is actually too bad a rush. His damage is based off of defensive stat, and that's going to be helpful if he is on a defense team, because you can just pump up the defensive stats as you would normally on a tank. but you're going to get extra benefits because of that. There are a couple of the characters in the game that already work like that, Someone like Razzo, the higher his defenses, the more offensive he can be. And someone like Thomas Richards, the same sort of idea. If we look at his skill upgrades, you can see at grade 3, he gets an extra heal target. So normally he'd only heal himself. Grade 3 is not too hard to get, but the grade 5 will be a bit harder because obviously you need the second Gold Mythic Kapoor. And you go from 2 main targets up to 3. So it is definitely worth getting that second character, if not only for the stats bonus, but also for the extra damage potential. Now at Limit Break 1, the AP cost goes from 75 to 66, and we have actually seen this on 1 or 2 characters recently, and it is actually really interesting. That would obviously be a much more effective on a defense team. It's going to go off a lot quicker. 66 AP with an AP on attack weapon means it will be natural turn 3 generally, but there are other parts of Kapoor's kit which are going to make that 75 AP not too bad, which we'll look into in a moment. But overall, like I said, I think the rush is decent. It's nicely offensive. If he goes off, it's going to spell like the end for quite a few of your characters, if not instantly or within a couple of turns. Now I'll go across to Kapoor's signature move, and this is where that rush speed doesn't matter so much. And we'll read through it. It's called TNT, but the picture is of some bullets, right? I don't know. Initial cooldown turn 1, cooldown 2 turns, number of uses unlimited. Deal main damage equal to 25% of this character's max HP. This character gets 20 AP. This means by doing this signature move, he will get 55 AP instantly. Whereas most people, when they do a signature move, only get 35. It adds both of these together. Okay, just to show that he doesn't need AP on attack, we'll go into the weapon that I'm using on him, and you can see it's a non-AP on attack weapon. It's just one of the base Jesus pistols with no AP on attack. And we'll hit duel. And you can see if I just do my signature move, I have got 7 AP off the first turn because of an 8% weapon, but I'll go up to 62 because I should gain the 35 from the signature move plus the 20 extra. There we go. And as you know, as long as I've got 55 or more, a basic attack on attack would be 20 AP, but on defense it's going to be slightly higher. But we'll defend with everybody. I won't give him extra AP from like Glenn. He did gain 1 AP, but that's not going to make any difference because his rush is 74 and a basic attack is 20. So he's always going to have a turn 3 rush with a stat weapon, which is always going to be nice. You can see it did 6,000 main damage on his signature move because it was 25% of his max HP. If he has 50,000 HP, he's going to do 12,500 main damage on turn 1. That's going to be very, very nice indeed. I think there's some good potential for him to be quite a frustrating character on defense teams. So really, really nice signature move, honestly, in terms of it being very, very quick. Turn 1 initial and then cooldown of 2 turns. The number of uses is just normal, but deal main damage equal to 25% of this character's max HP is really nice. It just plays off of the rush, what you're going to be building this character with anyway, so you're getting double bonus from building this more HP on this character. Him getting 20 AP is very, very interesting. And if there are some AP manipulators that come in down the line, where potentially, you could potentially have Glenn on a defense team with him. Kapoor goes off first, and this is with a limit broken Kapoor, so he would have, it doesn't actually matter, I don't think. But if Glenn hits the crit afterwards, Kapoor would have his rush naturally for turn 2. Now, he couldn't get commanded in that scenario because the command would have to come in before Glenn would do his basic attack, and the AI wouldn't be able to predict that, so it just wouldn't do it. It only would ever command a character that had their rush ready when they attacked. So unless it was RNG where like Glenn crit first, it went to Kapoor, then he did his signature move, that's the only way it could happen. Turn 2, he could be doing 25% of his character's max HP off turn 1 and 33% of his max HP off of turn 2 to the same character, So like one character is going to get absolutely destroyed, potentially. Okay, so far so good on Kapoor's kit. We'll see what his mythic abilities, his passives have to offer. He is a tank, so he is going to get the critical hit resistance. If you limit break the character, he'll get the second 20% on this as well. His second passive is called City Slickers. Incoming tough trait damage against this character has its multiplier reduced by 35%. This is actually kind of cool. He's going to be basically enhancing his defense versus characters that would normally do trait damage. This is actually like really good. A lot of people would see an alert character and say, hey, tough damage dealers can destroy this character. Well, it's not going to be so easy now due to that reduction in the damage that's going to be incoming. The next passive is called Saddle Up. When being attacked by an enemy with the main status, gain 30 AP. This is actually kind of interesting. This is that extra thing that I said about at the beginning, where it's the AP manipulator that can come in, and he could potentially be attacked by the person he does his first turn signature move against, and then that character would give the AP, and they'd have a second turn natural rush on a defense team. Now, that would be in the attack team's hands, and it would be a mistake, obviously, to do that. The last passive is called Sharpshooter. When attacking, 40% chance to turn attacks into main damage. So 40% chance is pretty high on those basic attacks. His basic attacks aren't going to do huge amounts of damage, but there is the potential that it's going to be unhealable damage. There is a big, nice little bonus there. The only problem is, if a team did have main resist, like on a conquest stage, there are characters every now and again that do have main resist. You could potentially just do no damage with his rush signature move or his passive here if it does proc to certain characters. That is the only downside. Okay, so we're just going to test out that 40% chance to get main damage on your, your basic attacks, basically. I would normally use my signature move on this point, but we're just testing out how the passive works. I'm going to attack Bruce here, and as you can see, it did a 3.3k critical, but now he has 3.3k main damage. This is actually really good. Naturally, on turn 2, he would normally do a basic attack, so that would be the time when that could potentially come in. And like I said, he could actually do multiple targets in terms of who he attacks. Like on the first turn, he could attack someone with his signature move, and then a different target with a basic attack and actually hit this main damage. And then like every time he gets attacked, he's gaining AP at that point. Once he gets his rush off, there could potentially be either the entire team with main damage on it, or like at least 3. And if you have him teamed up with certain characters, who do main damage as well, and or weapons even, there are main damage weapons for tough characters, it could really help with Kapoor's passives. Okay, so we'll just check out the upgrades on these passives, and at grade 1 he gets City Slickers 1. That's 20% of the 35% he gets at grade 1 if you fully max that. He needs 20 upgrades for strength. That is because he's a tank. That's the critical hit resistance. Saddle Up, that's the 30 AP potential from main targets. I mean, it is guaranteed, but they have to have main on them. And that only needs 15 upgrades. City Slickers 2 stacks with City Slickers 1, and it goes up to 35% if you do both of those. And then lastly, at grade 5, he gets the Sharpshooter with the 40% chance to turn attacks into main damage. Now, in the first 3 turns, he's only going to do 1 basic attack. So you could potentially see that as not super worthwhile investing your military supplies in. It isn't going to make that big a difference. It is still going to deal damage, but it becomes unhealable damage. And in certain scenarios, it can be really, really powerful. It's just whether you think it's worthwhile long term. And the rest of them, though, are good for like his potential on a defense team for sure. So last and by no means least, on the main parts of Kapoor's kit, we are going to check out his specialist skill, and you've probably seen it already. It is dexterity, and it's quite familiar because it is the same one that S-Class Kapoor had. And it is quite annoying. If this specialist takes damage, the amount taken is reduced based on their current AP. The more AP the specialist has, the less damage they take. If this character's health is above 20% and they take damage that would kill them, their health will be reduced to 19% instead. Obviously very powerful in certain circumstances. Can't be one-shot by adrenaline rushes like Andrew would normally come in and potentially nuke this character. I mean, it might be a lot harder now because of those passives, but a character could potentially come in with a big single target hit and it's not going to work. Multi-hit rushes will potentially get past this though. They can hit the initial block and then the next attack will go through it. But the AP here is, again, much more powerful than the S-Class version just because off of turn 1, he gets 55 AP. So he's instantly going to start reducing the incoming damage because of that. Okay, so I'll show you how it works on a defense team just by himself. He has got a stun weapon, so some of my characters might start getting stunned. But off of the first hit, you'll see it gets no proc because he hasn't got any AP. But the second he's got AP, you'll see the specialist skill proc where the animation just pops up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to defend on my other characters. He's going to use his signature move, potentially take a character out because he might do enough HP. Some of these characters are quite low HP. But we'll see his AP then obviously massively, like drastically reduce the incoming damage. He is actually going to do it against the character that makes the most sense, which is great. And you can see he's really high on the AP percentage now. And the damage I'm going to start doing is going to be much more reduced. We're talking about tough crits against... He's getting no leader bonus here. It's just him. And he's not taking really any damage just off basic attacks. Even when they're crits, he's not taking any damage. Now, obviously, then he would rush. potentially attack 3 characters, and he's going to get a 25% heal. If we just continue to use basic attacks, we might take him out. I'm not sure if it procced then. I'm not sure. I think it did. The last attack did proc the tenacity side of things. This is the only annoying thing about this specialist skill. It's hard to know whether you've actually hit the tenacity or if it's the evasion side of thing that is proccing. That is actually kind of frustrating. They need to have maybe a better tooltip for that. But if I like defend again, he's just going to get more HP. And round and round in circles we go. And then again, I think on the next turn, he would just do his signature move. Yeah, and then have his rush again for the next turn afterwards. So he has quite a nice rotation of things. Obviously, the higher stat he has, the more HP he has, the more damage he has. Right now, he's not doing much main damage. It's only 6k. He can easily get up to the 15 to 20k if you just push that HP up into the 50 to 60k range. Now, Kapoor does have an attached weapon. He has got 2 attached weapons, but it is only one of the pistols that you're going to be upgrading. It is Kapoor's Vital 6-shooter. It has got 25 HP base, a medium bonus to AP when taking damage, self-healing, regain 80% HP at the beginning of each wave. Not obviously the best weapon, something that you do want to obviously replace. I don't think this is even upgrade worthy just because the 3rd stat is not really that great. It's going to heal him at the beginning. I mean, I guess you could upgrade it for something like SR. This wouldn't be too bad for SR. 80% HP heal at the beginning of every wave on SR wouldn't be terrible, but otherwise that's pretty much its only real usage in my opinion. When it comes to the weapon you want to put in his hands, you obviously want to get that HP as high as possible. 45 to 50% stat. You probably want to sacrifice other stats, but he doesn't need AP on attack like I already showed. He doesn't need it. Even with 74 AP, it is definitely worth going for double stats on this guy. Get him as tanky as possible. Even though he does reduce incoming damage, you know, quite significantly with his passives and his specialist skill and so on and so forth, I would still put defense on him. Even though HP is the most important stat, he still does need defense. So yeah, I think something along the lines of a focus stun, double stat weapon, and then the 4th slot is kind of up to you. You could do HP to a line of teammates. That would include Kapoor, but it'll buff his damage too. Or you could maybe give him one of the defense bonus pistols that are out there. I mean, we did get given one in one of the events once before, so that pistol would just kind of fit right into Kapoor's hands. But you might want to swap out the AP on defense for defense stat itself. So this is Gold Mythic Kapoor, and compared to the S-Class version, I like this character quite a lot. I think he's going to be quite a good cornerstone of a lot of free-to-play defense teams in the future. Him and Erica will work together too, so if you've got Erica from the past stores, those 2 characters could easily go on a defense team together. And if you did have the defense bonuses based on how many alert characters you had on a team, on one of those 2 characters, you're going to get a little bit of a bonus there because that's 2 alert characters. And if you have Governor too, even better. So you could potentially have some nice alert defense team combos there. And I think this guy is a lot more dangerous, like I was saying, than the S-Class version of this character. The S-Class version was just more of a meat shield, slow and steady, would just get things done, you know, if you wanted to take him, like people were taking him on SR and stuff like this. But this guy is going to be really kind of quick, and it could be useful for conquest in the right teams. You have to get a lot of HP on him. Those stages, they still have like 60, 70k HP, so his 33% of his HP, you might be able to get to like 20,000. But I mean, you can rattle that off quite often. You're probably able to get off like 3 turns in a conquest stage, which is pretty decent, and it's unhealable. So eventually you could just like absolutely destroy a really defensive character. So that's not too terrible. So yeah, I think he's decent. I think a lot of people make good use of him. What I do think needs to happen in RTS, this is kind of me memeing a little bit, but there needs to be a thing where when the raid starts or when the stage starts, there's an animation on how the character gets onto the field. Like, imagine the entire field's empty and the characters come onto the field. Like, Kapoor just needs to ride in on the horse and then like jump off and the horse just rides away. Like that needs to happen. That would be so cool. Instead of them just like appearing, like 5 characters just appearing there ready. That would be so cool. But other than that, yeah, I like Kapoor. Do give me your thoughts on Kapoor, guys. Do you think he's actually a decent character? What do you think of his comparison to the S-Class version? I think it's pretty obvious he is a lot better than the S-Class version, but I would like to see what you think about this character in the comments down below. That is going to be the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.